Yes.
Okay. So we will be discussing about one of the fundamental concepts of finance again, and that is going to be risk and return. So whenever we are talking about shareholders, wealth maximization, what things comes first into your mind? That is return. And return comes with risk. That means risk is inbuilt in return. The return is not inbuilt. So whenever we are talking about return, we always focus on the risk factors associated with our return. So, in continuation with our discussion about risk and return, you will find a new concept, that is trade-off. Trade-off. So, risk-return relationship, we will be talking about the trade-off. So, what actually risk-return trade-off is? The risk-return trade-off actually mainly, this risk-return trade-off means that if you want a higher return, there will be a higher risk, and if you are taking higher risk, there will be higher return. So for example, so there is two-story building. If I ask you to jump out of the building, you will even think of jumping if I offer you 100 crore taka. Yes. But what if I offer 1 lakh taka and I ask you to jump, maybe you won't jump, and you will not jump. But if you are in need of money, maybe, God forbid that something happens with your family and you are in need of money, immediate need of money, right? So that time if I offer you 100 crore and if I ask you to jump, you will think of jumping. So that means you are taking the biggest risk in your life for the higher return. So that is called the risk-return trade-off. So this is actually the trade-off between risk and return. That means with the additional risk, you will need additional return. Okay? So let's talk about the return. What basically return is? What basically the return is according to you? Apnar mother return jinish ki. What is return? When you call something as return. So if I talk about return, so let's see that any income received on an investment plus any change in the market price. So that means your two things constitute the return. Right? Any income generated from investment. Income generated from investment plus any price changes. That means price appreciation or price depreciation. That means for something to be returned, there will be two things. One, that is you are going to get some income from your investment, and another income is in the form of price appreciation or price depreciation. So if you think about investing in a stock, you are going to get two returns. One in the form of dividend. At the year end, you are going to get dividend, and also the capital gain. If you buy a share worth of 12 taka and you are selling that share after a month at 15 taka. So that means you are going to get 3 taka or $3 as your capital gain. And what if you are holding this share for 1 year? You are going to get, for say, 10% as dividend. So you are going to get 1.2 taka as your dividend, plus after 1 year, if you are selling a share, that means you are earning 3 taka again. So that means your in total return is 4.22 taka. So what is the percentage return? So I have to go to some percentage return. তার মানে আপনি যখন বেস ইয়ার দিয়ে ইউ ডিভাইড ইট অর বেস প্রাইস দিয়ে যখন আপনি ডিভাইড করবেন, দ্যাট উইল বি ইওর পার্সেন্টেজ রিটার্ন অন দিস ইনভেস্টমেন্ট as a whole, right? So that is basically your return. So we use a formula to calculate the percentage return. So return, simply we can write as return is equal to dividend plus capital gain. That is your return. So So dividend, I can write it as DT. So DT means your expected dividend income in year 1 or after a year your expected dividend. Okay, DT. PT, that means price, expected price in year 1. There is another thing called PT minus 1. That means your price in the year 0. Sort of presentable, right? P naught like this. PT minus 1. So clear? So using this information, I can calculate my percentage return. So are you done?
Done.
Okay. Done? Good. So this information will be there in the next slide. So we better write the formula. Your return is equal to DT plus P P T minus PT minus 1 divided by P T minus 1. So that means this is your base price. In the earlier year, what was your price? The dividend, your expected dividend income in the next year or year 1, and this portion is the capital gain. What is the price in year 1 and what was the price in the earlier year? So for example, again, আমি 10 টাকা দিয়ে একটা শেয়ার কিনলাম, ঠিক আছে, and 10% will be my dividend income in year 1. যদি আমি 1 বছর পর্যন্ত হোল্ড করি, then I will get 10% as dividend income. Then 1 বছর পরে আমার dividend income কত হবে? 10 into 10% dividend. So কত টাকা হয়? 1 টাকা. Okay. So after 1 year, you are finding that the share price of this share is 15 টাকা. So you are selling this stock. So you are going to get তার মানে 15 টাকা একটা বিক্রয় মূল্য মাইনাস ক্রয় মূল্য, কত টাকা আপনার লাভ হয়? 5 টাকা। 5 টাকা আগে 1 টাকা, তো in total আপনার লাভ হয় 6 টাকা. So the same thing will happen here. So what is your dividend in the year 1 expected dividend? So that means 1 টাকা plus capital gain, তার মানে আপনার বর্তমানে PT, that means in year 1 আপনার প্রাইস কত? That 15 টাকা. So what was the purchase price of this share? Or earlier year এই শেয়ারের প্রাইস কত ছিল? 10 টাকা, right? And divided by PT minus 1, that means not in this year, earlier year এর প্রাইস কত ছিল? 10 টাকা ছিল, right? So that means this 1 plus 5 divided by 10. So for example 6 divided by 10. 6 divided by 10.
1.5.
Check.
0.6
1.5.
Check. Don't be so confident without the calculation. Okay. Satman? 0.6. That means, or I can say 60% return you have generated. So that means if you are going to invest in this stock, your percentage return will be 60%. Clear? তার মানে এটাই হচ্ছে আমার মেইনলি রিটার্ন. ওকে, ডান. Now, see, এখানে একটা एग्जांपल দেওয়া আছে, let's solve this. কি বলা আছে? The stock price of a stock A was 10 per share a year ago. তার মানে এক বছর আগে এই যে স্টক এ এর শেয়ার প্রাইস কত ছিল? $10. So that means PT minus 1 information is given here, right? So what was that? $10. Okay, আর কি বলতে আছে? The stock is currently trading at $9.5. So that means PT is your $9.5. I mean in year 1 it is being traded at $9.5. Okay. And shareholder just received a $1 dividend. Okay. DT is $1. Since the shareholders have already received the dividend in year 1, so that means that is going to be a dividend income. So what return was earned over the past year? তার মানে এই স্টক এ যে ট্রেড করে কত টাকা ইনকাম হয়েছে, so we can just put it in the formula. So our DT is $1, right? So our current year কত টাকা ট্রেড হচ্ছে? $9.50. Earlier price কত ছিল? $10. See? So that means এখানে কোনো capital gain হয় নাই. There was a capital loss in this situation, right? And PT minus 1 was $10. So what is the value? So 1 here it will be minus 0.5 divided by 10. So it will be 0.5 divided by 10. What is that?
0.05.
0.05 or 5%. His percentage return was 5%, although he has incurred a capital loss. তাই না? আমি কিনেছিলাম 10 টাকায় বাট বিক্রি করেছি 9 টাকা 50 এ। So there was a capital loss. So not necessarily you will always get a capital gain. You can have a capital loss as well. So in total your return will be formulated. Clear?
So 5% is it my gain or loss?
Your total return.
Oh, total
A
return.
total return after even incurring the capital loss. Because বলেছি না, the return এর মধ্যে দুটো পোর্শন থাকে, one is dividend income and another is the capital gain or capital loss, price appreciation or price depreciation. This capital gain or loss happens, right? So আপনার যদিও capital loss আছে but dividend income দিয়ে আপনি এটা cover up করেছেন somehow. So even if there was no dividend income for this share, then the return was negative. তাই না? return negative হয়ে যেত না, for example এটা তো zero হয়ে যেত, যে you didn't receive any dividend for this year, right? Okay. আচ্ছা, that means there is a risk factor works here. What if you didn't get any dividend? Or আমি dividend পেয়েছি $1 না $0.2. 0.2, in that case you will also suffer a negative return, right? So that's the thing, that means there is a risk factor associated with this return. So what is actually risk? What is actually risk? Risk is the variability or variation in this return from those that are expected. So আপনি expect করছেন যে আমি এই শেয়ার ইনভেস্ট করে 15% ইনকাম করব, but sadly you
5%
only got 5%. So that means the expected return was 15%, but you just got only 5%. So that is your risk. The variation in your return from those that are expected. Expectation থেকে আমি যখন যতটা ভেরিয়েবল হবে, যতটা ভেরিয়েশনের দিকে আমি থাকবো, that means that is my risk factor. Okay. Okay. Now so we will use the probability distribution to calculate our return. So probability distribution is, it is a statistical measure that আমার কতগুলো probability থাকবে outcome then I will get the return, right? So the formula is R bar. R bar means your expected return. summation of Ri into Pi, that will start on n and I is equal to 1. That is my formula. So stock in the this is stock BMW. So that means there are some scenarios and there are some probabilities. Key scenarios that 10% মানে এটা যদি আমার নেক্সট ইয়ারের একটা পসিবল অর এক্সপেক্টেড ইনকাম অর রিটার্ন জেনারেশন সিনারিও হয়, এখানে বলা আছে যে 10% চান্স আছে যে আমার রিটার্ন হবে নেগেটিভ 0.15, 20% পসিবিলিটি আছে যে আমার রিটার্ন হবে নেগেটিভ 0.03, আবার দেখেন 40% চান্সেস আছে যে আমি 0.09 রিটার্ন পেতে পারি। Clear? So there are the probabilities, and in total this probability will sum up to 1. Probability always 1 always. So calculate for again it will be 1. So how can you calculate your expected return? So I can simply use this formula. R bar is equal to summation of Ri into Pi. Ri equal to this variable returns, okay, and Pi equal to the probability of that return, okay, we happening of the return probability কত। Clear? So দেখেন এখানে দেওয়া আছে stock B W, okay, so Ri is given, Pi is given, তাই না? কত দেওয়া আছে? First one negative 0.15, negative 0.03, then 0.09, then 0.21 and 0.33. So probabilities are 0.10, that means 10% probability, right? And then 0.20, 0.40, 0.20 and 0.10. So what is your expected return for R bar? R bar formula ki summation of Ri into Pi. So আমার কাজ হচ্ছে just multiply these two things. So that means minus 0.15 multiplied by 0.10. দেখেন তো কত হয়? So that is your R bar. Not yet after the summation of all the outcomes. Okay. Then negative 0.03 multiplied by 0.20. Then 0.09 multiplied by 0.40. Then 0.1 multiplied by 0.20 and 0.33 multiplied by 0.16. So solve it. So what am I? 0.015. Then what is the negative sign?
Oh, yeah.
Whatever is the negative sign, even after seeing the solution. Then negative
minus 0.006.
006, then
0.036.
036, then
0.042.
042, then
0.033.
0.033. So if you sum this up, what is the value? It is going to be
0.090.
So that means it is going to be a 9%, you can say. Investing in this stock will generate you 9% of your expected return. Then what is the standard deviation? So how can you define risk? Risk is the variability in the return from those that are expected. So how can you determine this risk factor? Using the variance, and most importantly or most concisely through the standard deviation. So after the standard deviation is free, I can identify my risk factor. So how can I identify? So if you calculate the sigma square, তাই না, sigma square যদি আমি ক্যালকুলেট করি, or এটাকে কি বলে variance দিয়ে আমি রিস্ক বের করতে পারি। How? Summation of n is equal to 1 Ri minus R bar into probability Pi. And if you want to calculate the standard deviation, just do here. So see, That's my formula. So root over full is for 12 and that will be your ultimate sigma and that is going to be the standard deviation. Okay? Standard is the statistical measure of the variability of a distribution around its mean. মানে এই রিটার্ন থেকে কতটুকু দূরে আমার standard deviation টা indicate করে কতটুকু দূরে আছে. Okay? So since I have already calculated the return, standard deviation কিভাবে calculate করব? Just by using the formula. Okay? So Ri minus R bar whole square into Pi. So what is my Ri here? Negative 0.15 minus R bar কত? 0.09, right? 0.09 whole square Pi কত into 0.10. Okay? Calculate করুন. It will be like 0.03 minus 0.09 whole square into Pi, right? Then again 0.09 minus 0.09 whole square into 0.40. Then 0.21 minus 0.09 whole square into 0.20. Then 0.23 minus 0.09 whole square into 0.10. This is summation of Ri into Pi. Okay. So this will be your summation of Ri minus R bar whole square. What of it? First, you calculate and then you add it up. Easy. First, minus 0.15 minus 0.09 whole square into 0.10. Yeah? If you need to do it separately, first you calculate this one, then this one, then this one, then this one, and then this one, and then you finally add those up. It will be like 0.01728. Verify just whether it is right or not. Okay. So your standard deviation will be root over of this result 0.01728. Think about that. What is your standard deviation? It will be like 0.1315. 0.1315 or 13.15%. That is going to be a standard deviation. So if you are looking at this probability distribution, then you will find out that your expected return is going to be 9%, whereas your standard deviation or your risk is 13.15%. So actually your money. How can you interpret this standard deviations? Always remember that this is plus minus 0.1315. Then যখন আপনি root over করবেন, it will be plus minus, it can be plus, it can be minus figure as well. So 13.15%, what does it mean?
Because I'm taking more risk compared to the return.
No, actually to interpret these things, okay, you have to have a rational thinking. For simplicity, আপনি বলে নেন যে আমার এই যে রিটার্নটা আছে 9%, there is a probability that I can get more than 9% and less than 9%, but by how much amount, by what amount, how much percentage, that exactly by 13.15%. So it can be positive 13.15%, it can be negative 13.15%. তার মানে এই রিটার্নটা 13.15% বেশি হতে পারে, 13.15% কম হতে পারে। দ্যাট ইজ ইওর রিস্ক। যে এই যে মিনটা আছে, এই মিন থেকে আমরা স্ট্যান্ডার্ড ডেভিয়েশন কত দূরে আছে, 13.15% দূরে আছে। ফর সিম্পলিসিটি ধরেন আমার এরকম হয়, আমার একটা রিটার্ন আছে, আমি নেক্সট ইয়ারে 10 টাকা পেতে পারি, দ্যাট উড বি মাই এক্সপেক্টেড রিটার্ন। এন্ড ধরেন আমার standard deviation there is plus minus. What does it mean? It means that your expected return can be 12 taka or 8 taka. So 8 to 12, that is your range of getting this return, since you are considering the risk factor, because return comes with risk, inbuilt risk, right? Take that inbuilt factor. Okay, so that's why I'm considering this, and that's how my return. So a 9% it is not, because দেখেন আপনি লেখা আছে expected return, not for sure। আপনি for sure জানেন না যে মানে I'm going to get this 9% for sure, there is no certainty, right? So that's why we use the probability distribution to calculate our expected return and calculate the standard deviation and risk factor. Yes. So there is another thing, that is coefficient of variation. You probably learned in the statistics, I know. CV. So it is also a risk measurement tool, but it is a relative risk measurement tool. So how can we calculate? We can calculate easily by sigma or your standard deviation divided by your expected return. So in this case, my return was 0.09. Standard deviation was 0.1315. So what is your CV? Coefficient of variation? This is 1.46. So what does it mean? That is my relative risk. And when do you use this CV? Because of the standard deviation calculation, I am already done but this time we use this tool to compare two stocks, two projects. For example, again, stock A, stock B. Number C. There is two types of stock given here. There is a stock A and a stock B. So if you look at this stock A, your expected return is 10%, but your standard deviation is 0.33. Oh, in a stock B, your expected return is only 3%. Only 3% income you are going to get from this stock, and you have a risk measurement of 0.06 or 6%. So which stock I am going to invest in? By looking at this information, it will be difficult for you to take decision. So এখন আমরা কি করতে হবে? We need to compare these two projects, but looking at this project it will be tough. In that case, we calculate the CV. So for stock A, we will calculate CVA. Then we calculate করেন first stock এর জন্য কত হয় 0.33 divided by 0.10. For CV stock B, 0.06 divided by 0.03. কোনটা কত হয়?
স্যার উপরটা হবে 0.0033
করেন পরে বলেন।
স্যার
First calculate.
0.0002.
Calculate করেছেন? No, do it. So use the calculator. 0.33 divided by 0.1 কত হয়?
3.37.
3.3 and নিচেরটা 2. Okay, so 3.3 and now I can compare because এইখানে দেখেন এটা কিন্তু একটা কমন প্ল্যাটফর্মে ছিল না যার সাথে মেজার করতে পারি বাট when I have brought this under the one relative risk measurement tool I can now see that one is getting 2 and another one is getting 3.3 তার মানে যেটা হায়ার ওটা রিস্ক বেশি যেটা লোয়ার সেটা রিস্ক কম so which one are you going to invest in even though you are getting lower return the risk is also lower here so that is the risk return trade off even though you are getting 10% your risk is much higher so if you are risk person you will invest in stock B but if you are risk taker person you will go for stock A it's up to you your risk exposure clear